Hi, I'm Bibi Frederick, and I live in Chicago. I'm actually from Denmark, but I've been here 29 years, and I have a background in nursing, so always been into health and wellness. And I am married, and I have three kids, 20 and 24. And yeah, I love to connect with people and hear the stories and see how we can help each other.
And tell me about your business.
So I work with a Swedish nutritional company called Zinzino, and they are worldwide company, and they help with optimizing your health, helping with inflammatory response, which is something that is a problem for most people, right? One of the biggest health issues, and we help with that in an easy, efficient way, and we prove what makes us stand apart is that we prove that it works with before and after blood testing.
I love it. Bibi, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
What is your secret to a good life?
I think there's a lot of things that are important to a good life. One thing is having a good community, and I think socially you have to have connections and a place where you belong, kind of finding your people. That's one part of it. And also, of course, health-wise, for me, that's really big, that you healthy body, and you do what you can to stay healthy and live a long life, not just a long life, but also quality of life.
And so you were trained nurse. Do you still do nursing, or is it mostly
No, I
working
don't.
with the company?
I was educated in Denmark, and I couldn't get here. I would have to start over. And so I ended up not doing that. But I've always had an interest in healthy lifestyles and prevention, and like a more natural way of doing things.
So we've had a lot of folks on the podcast that have told us about these rough times in their lives that help them find the secret to a good life.
Mhm.
And for myself, right, like I'm able to reference back whenever I'm having a particularly hard time. There's this moment where I was in my first apartment with my wife. We had just been married, and there were these beautiful sycamore trees all around our apartment. And I was taking out the trash. Threw away the trash, turned around. It was a beautiful autumn day in Provo, Utah. The sun was shining through the leaves, and I remember looking up at the lights and having this breeze hit my face and feeling this profound sense of peace and satisfaction. So whenever I'm having a hard time, right, whenever I'm stressing, I can find myself there. I can transport myself to that location.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of meditation or any sort of place that you go to help you recenter and become present?
Yeah, for me, nature is really important, whether it's going for a bike ride, walk along the lake, or just enjoying some kind of beautiful nature. That's really important for me. But also my faith. So I believe in Jesus, and for me, having that as my right mind to fall back on, when things are hard, and that helped me tremendously. And I don't think I could do this crazy life without that. So
we talk about religion a lot on the podcast.
Yeah.
What do you spend most of your time doing as far as a religious activity? What church do you go to? So you're a Christian, but is there a particular church that you prefer?
So right now it's a smaller church, not too far from here, and it's mostly Black church, happens to be. And I really love the teachings. The teaching is what really drew me the first time. And then the worship is really great too. So, and then of course the people are wonderful. So for me, that's important to have something to kind of focus you in on what's really important. What is the truth? And really getting a hold of that. To me, that's important.
What was, from your perspective, what was Jesus trying to tell us? What was his message as far as you can surmise? We have all these scriptures, we have all these apocryphal doctrines that some people set aside and some people use as their means of faith acquisition. What was he trying to tell everyone? Other than, hey, I lived again and you guys can actually do that too. I figured it out. What was he trying to tell us?
That we all need him, that we all need salvation. It doesn't matter how good we can seem on the surface, no matter what, we all need his salvation. Like, he didn't come for nothing. He didn't die for nothing, but it was really necessary. I mean, if there was other ways to God, why would he then sacrifice himself and like that, right?
Now,
To me, that's truth.
so what do you say to those who challenge that particular faith, that say, hundreds of thousands of people were crucified in Rome, and Jesus wasn't a special case? He was a heretic according to the Roman government, and the people gave him up, and he just died as basically as like a liar. What do you say to the people who challenge that belief that his death means anything at all, and that he was just another death on another Roman cross?
Well, unless you believe that he was true man and true God, that he was that innocent, pure sacrifice. If you don't believe that, then I can see why he would just be another one. But he was God's son as well as being fully human, and he didn't have sin in his life, so therefore he was the perfect sacrifice. And yeah, that made the difference. Otherwise, it would have been a waste, right? And it would have been just another crucified person.
What do you think that he was doing in his 20s? Because we pretty much, we get a snapshot of him when he's a kid 2 or 3 times, I think. Right, I'm about my father's business, he tells his parents, right? Like, I'm just chilling at the temple, rapping with the homies, right? Like, teaching him about truth. So we get that when then he re-enters the scene in his 30s. Right? I'm 31, right? Here I am showing up. Hey, everybody, I'm the son of God. You need to listen to me now. What was he doing in his 20s?
We don't really know. I mean, I know he was a carpenter, right?
He just making furniture? He wasn't doing anything special? He was just a sinless furniture guy?
No, I think he spent a lot of time learning the word at the time. I miss a lot in the temple learning as well.
Have you ever read the Nag Hammadi?
No.
Oh, man.
So, what is that?
So in 1945, I believe, they found a bunch of perfectly preserved papyri, right, papers that were encased in glass on the Nile River, right, in Egypt.
Wow.
And that's where it, all of the like the Book of Esther or the Book of Jude. And the Nag Hammadi gives us this exposition of somebody, and a lot of people suppose that it was Jesus, right? They give this exposition of this like testament of things going on in the region at the time. And for something like that, how do you view that type of document, right? Assuming that it's legitimized, right? Because they know they did carbon records and everything. They know that it's real. How does that fit into your world, the existence of such a book?
I mean, it's probably interesting, but I mean, so I believe that the whole Bible is inspired by God and that it ties together. I mean, I don't know how many authors there are and over a long span of time, but somehow it all ties together. And it is that God designed it that way, that it's not random, but that there is an order to it, and that the Old Testament predicts Jesus, and it all connects, right? So I don't believe you can just interject anything in there, even though it is probably from the same time period. But
yeah, this is my favorite topics. We don't too deep with everybody. And I did seminary. I served and I talk about it a lot. Show I was born and raised Mormon.
Oh, okay.
So the Mormons have the Book of Mormon, and they have this thing called the Doctrine and Covenants, which are the writings of Joseph Smith and some of the other past prophets.
Right.
And then they have this thing called the Pearl of Great Price, which is a collection of scriptures that were supposedly translated by Joseph Smith. And so I grew up with all these additional books.
Yeah.
And I found out that they were fraudulent.
Oh.
And so it wrecked my faith.
Yeah, sure.
Gone.
Yeah.
Right. I was deceived. And that's the case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So counsel me, right? As someone who has their faith, talking to someone who has completely abandoned it,
Right.
counsel me.
Um, well, so I also believe that faith is a gift, that it's a gift God gives us if we want it. And we can ask for God to give us that faith. And I believe that He gives it to us, and that the Holy Spirit, which then dwells in us, is guiding us and revealing God to us, so that it's not just something in your head or something that somehow makes sense to you, but it's actually a relationship, it's an experience.
What if felt the Holy Spirit while dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of times while reading the Book of Mormon?
Yeah, I think speak to you through many things. So I don't think that's impossible. But
Isn't
I
that
also,
isn't that fruit though that he encouraged to look for, right? By their fruits ye shall know them, right? All these people were getting duped by this false prophet. Then their fruits, they were eating of the fruit and feeling the Spirit, right? How do we balance that?
I mean, I'm not sure what the Book of Mormon teaches and all, but I do believe that the Spirit will guide us to the truth. I've heard many stories of, for instance, Muslims who had revelations of Jesus, and that, I mean, very, very powerful dreams. And then, you know, God is guiding them to Jesus. So I think anybody who's seeking will find him. If you ask him directly, show me, show you, give me that faith. He's going to answer.
I've got a story on my YouTube channel where
Mm,
I did just that,
mm,
and I got nothing. After years and years and years of feeling it and all I was looking for at the time, I didn't vision, I didn't voice, I didn't want any of that stuff. I literally
mhm,
just wanted to feel like I was loved, that I was
mm,
supported, and that I was going to make it through, that I could
mhm,
access that Spirit, and it did
mhm.
not come. What do you think
And
about that?
yeah, I mean, it's not like you can just press a button and then, I don't know. I think it's also about seeking God and reading the Bible and listening to
Yeah,
people
maybe
guiding
maybe
you,
let
or
me let
meeting
me be
with other.
yeah,
What's
let me
that?
be more specific. I met
Yeah.
with precisely 35 people,
Mm,
ecclesiastical leaders, both Mormon and non-Mormon, spiritual teachers and shamans. I've read the New Testament, Old Testament, Nag Hammadi. I read the New Testament, I think 7 times,
oh wow.
and the Old Testament I've only made it through once because it's ridiculous. It's thick and there's a lot of
Yeah.
nonsense in there that I don't necessarily think is important, but
Hmm.
some people find it really important for like historical purposes. But I searched for 8 months
Mm, wow.
after a arduous trial in my life, and then I went
Mm,
up into the mountains and I prayed all day, begged God
mm,
for the feeling, just to feel supported in the nothing came.
mm, mm.
What do I do with that?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to talk to you later and maybe pray some more. And so my husband, he also went to seminary, and he might be able to go a little deeper with some of this. But
I I
yeah,
can I consider myself a black belt at it at this point, at religion
uh-huh,
and spirituality and everything. And
yeah,
what I've come to, we are probably in a simulation. It's a tough one because right after we left the Mormon church, I went and did ayahuasca. And are you familiar with ayahuasca?
mm-mm.
Okay, it's an ancient Peruvian psychedelic ceremony.
Okay,
And so it just shook me to my
yeah,
core. It just,
uh-huh,
at first it was
yeah,
the most incredible experience ever, but it also like shook my beliefs so foundationally that I've been
hmm,
picking up pieces. In fact, I literally have my psychedelic integration workbok right here that I'm still working through
okay,
because it was just so profound, right? It's,
yeah,
what is different now for you? How are your relationships different? I journal about these every single day. So
hmm,
like how might your community benefit from you having been through this process? This aspect of integration process can take months or years, and that's fine, right? So then it gives
hmm,
me a prompt for that. So that's the step I'm on right now.
okay,
So anyways, I this type of thing, whenever I meet a Christian specifically, I
hmm,
try to dive into these concepts because No one has been able to answer my questions so far.
Yeah.
And it's been, and go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I have a picture of Jesus, a little cartoon version of Jesus meditating in the levitating off the ground.
Oh, okay.
So this is the brand's called Yoga Jesus.
Oh, okay.
So it was such a significant part of my life. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. All of a sudden it was gone. So having to pick up the pieces,
Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't God's love, I wish I did, but sometimes I think a lot of the time it's just having the faith that he loves you in spite of how things go, or, what happens around you, that in spite of everything, that you have that faith where he is good and he does love you and he is for you, no matter how it feels, that you have that faith. Because faith is believing in something you don't see, right?
Yeah, the Greek word that comes from faith is a very poetic word, right? It's less of belief without seeing, and it's more of, right, like non-doubt, right? Like I can do it. Even though I have no evidence of me being able to do it, I can do it. And it's led me to believe that Jesus was on to neuroscientific concepts that we're only discovering today. Things like Dr. Joe Dispenza and his manifesting, like being able to think about something and then achieve it, right? The human frontal cortex interaction with its surroundings is a very unique one, because we only have our senses to be able to measure and abstract the world around us. And so if that's the case, then the processing unit that we use to interact with the world around us really super matters. If we are, like you asked 7 different people what happened when they saw like a car accident, you're going to get 7 slightly different answers. And that's a problem, right? Like, oh, what is the truth then? And so, as this episode, I would encourage everybody to continue to find that truth. I am still on that journey. Sounds like Bibi Frederick has found it, but where can everyone find you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn, and I would love to connect with you more. And we can talk about God, and we can also talk about how to get you healthy. So either way, I'd love to connect and hear about you.
I love it. Bibi, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you.